Have you ever faced the daunting reality of getting blisters on your feet on a hike, and it's just turned your adventure into agony? I have. Today we're diving into not just treating, but preventing blisters. I want to transform your hiking experience from painful to pleasurable. Stay tuned as we uncover the secrets to keeping your feet blissfully blister-free. Hi everyone, welcome back, Mauser here. Now, having hiked for 30 years, I've had my fair share of blisters. Got a couple of blisters on each foot, which is not fun, considering we've got another 6 days out here too, so. But as both a hiking guide and as a pharmacist, I've picked up a few tips and tricks and learned what really works to avoid this painful problem. And while I don't always take my own advice, I've come to realise that getting blisters doesn't have to be an inevitable part of your hiking experience. With some preparation and know-how, you can outsmart blisters altogether and not get them at all. Let's have a look at blister strategies. Welcome back, and today we are diving deep into the world of blisters. This is a common yet often misunderstood part of hiking. Those little niggly sores that develop on your feet and can often lead to ruining your walk. And in this video, we're not just going to talk about blisters, we're going to go into the science behind them. We're going to look at what causes them, we're going to look at how to prevent them, and very importantly, we're going to look at how to treat them. So without further ado, let's have a look at blisters. So first up, we're going to unveil the true cause of blisters. We're going to look at the science of skin shear. And just quickly, before we dive into this topic, a great channel to check out for all things blisters and blister prevention. On top of this video that I'm making for you today, go and check out the Blister Prevention YouTube channel. Link will be below. It's a great channel and it's made by a podiatrist here in Australia who goes into all parts of blister care, treatment and management in great detail across all of her videos. So first up, let's unveil the true cause of blisters. Let's get into the science of skin shear. Shear of skin, shearing, skin shearing. Now, if you were to go and ask someone what causes blisters, what do you think their answer would be? What causes blisters? Oi, what causes blisters? Rubbing. And if their answer is rubbing, well, they're kind of wrong. Rubbing. So just imagine for a moment the simple movement of your foot moving inside your boot or your shoe. The simple action of your foot sliding inside your shoe just isn't about surface friction. The real issue lies deeper, and it lies within the layers of your skin. Well, as you hike, your foot's movement inside your shoes or your boot creates a dynamic where the bone moves. So your heel bone, for example, is moving, but the skin doesn't follow immediately. So pretend this is the heel bone. It's going up, and this is the boot pressing on the skin. The bone is going up, but the skin is staying in the same position. It's not moving in the same direction as the bone. It will try to catch up and follow, but it doesn't follow immediately like the bone does. This lag causes the stretching or the shearing of the tissue between the external layer of the skin and the bone. So the skin cells tear inside there and gradually form a gap, which then fills with fluid to form a blister. And things like moisture and heat can lead to increased friction. So with blisters, there is a tendency to focus solely on external factors. The type of shoes you wear, the type of socks you choose, how much you sweat. While they're important, they're definitely important, they only touch the surface of preventing blisters. Recognizing that role of skin shear, the role it plays, helps provide a more comprehensive approach for better prevention methods. So let's have a look at some of the prevention strategies. You're heading out on a walk soon. You want to make sure you don't get any blisters. You've got a history of getting blisters. Let's have a look at some comprehensive prevention strategies. First up, footwear finesse. You need to ensure your hiking boots or shoes are the correct fit for you. Too tight, you increase friction on that part of the foot where you might get a blister. Too loose and your foot moves too much around the shoe, creating shear. Ideally, what you want to do when you're fitting a shoe is pull the sole out. A good way to do it, the way I do it now, is pull the sole out of the boot that you're trying on and ensure that you have like a thumb's width. When you put your foot on the sole, have a thumb's width at the end of your toes between that and the end of the sole. That is a kind of a good way to sort of determine if it's going to be the right fit. Now, I have had trouble for the last decade or so. After never having any trouble for years with blisters, I went through a period of about a decade of constantly getting blisters, and I put this down to incorrectly fitting boots. I was using the Scarpa brand of boots for a long time. I was a big fan of them. As my hiking guide days, I would always wear Scarpas, but I was sort of insisting, now I think about it, on a tighter fitting boot because I felt that would help prevent blisters. What I have moved to now is the lower, I don't know. But what I have done with these new boots is I have bought a wider fitting boot, so in the wide size, and I've also bought something that's just a little bit bigger than what I'm normally used to, and I'm not suffering from any blisters at all. It is an absolute dream. And for me, when I was trying on those new boots, I found it a bit strange. They felt a bit looser, but they still tighten up well, and they are really comfy boots. I don't necessarily put that down to the brand. I think I just went through a period where I was just not getting the right size for my foot. The boots that I was getting were the wrong size because I had this mentality in my head that the boot needed to be tight fitting and conforming completely to the foot. The other thing you want to do with any footwear that you're taking on a hike is make sure you break it in. Wear it around a fair bit before you go on a hike. Now we're going to go into footwear on another video, but there's certain things you should be doing with your footwear. If you're not hiking that regularly, you should still be wearing that footwear. Try and wear it once a month, once every 2 months, because there's a couple of things that can happen. It will dry out, it will get hard, and you can get that blister causing thing happening again. You can also get soles degrading on boots and shoes if you're not wearing them fairly regularly. We'll go into that in another video. Second up in our prevention strategies is the savvy sock selection. Now, the correct socks act as your moisture management system. If socks get wet and the moisture sticks around the skin, that is going to increase friction and it's going to increase the chances of that skin shear occurring. So moving sweat away from the skin with moisture wicking socks will help prevent blisters. Materials matter. Synthetic fibers or wool are much superior to cotton. There is no place for cotton when you're hiking. Cotton retains moisture and causes friction, and it will make your feet cold as well. There are plenty of good brands of socks out there. I'm currently loving the Silverlight socks. I've gone to them on other videos before, on my socks video, which you can check out just there. Great socks. I wore them recently on a 9-day trip. I took 2 pairs of them for hiking in, and I found I basically only needed the 1 pair. They didn't get a smell. They stayed dry, and they were just an incredible sock for that trip. It's the longest trip I've taken them on, and they'll be coming on every trip for sure. They are made of a blend of synthetic stuff and wool and silver, and it just combines well to make this quick drying sock that doesn't get a smell about it because of the silver in it, and it's good for the feet. I found them really good, but there are lots of brands out there. Check them out. I'll leave links below for all the stuff I mentioned in this video also. Our next strategy, well, that involves using something like an insole, which I've also added into my routine lately, or you can also use a patch like one that the Blister Prevention YouTube channel recommends called Engo. I have ordered some of them just to have, but they look like a good option as well. But I currently use the Superfeet insoles in my boots that I wear, and I find these really good, very comfortable, and I've swapped my proprietary insoles that come with my boots for these, and I have not had any troubles at all. And what they do is just to help reduce sort of skin shear by adjusting the way the foot is sitting in the boot. It's definitely something you want to try before you head out and hike. Don't put them in your boot and then head out and hike with them in case they cause issues for you. But I gave them a good trial out around town before I used them. With the Engo patches, they reduce friction. They make the foot slide a bit more in the boot. They can be applied to high-risk areas inside your boot or shoe and act as a preventative barrier. Another thing that I have tried in the past, and I probably used more 20 years ago, was using 2 layers of socks, wearing 2 layers of socks at a time. I like to call this the dual sock defense. And what that does, that can distribute the friction between the layers of socks as opposed to between your skin layers on your foot and the boot. And sometimes instead of 2 pairs of socks, people do use liner socks as well. There's a few different brands of them out there as well. Next up, well, Orthotics for optimal alignment. Now, for some people, foot structure and function can contribute to formation of blisters. So custom orthotics for these people can help solve the issue and can provide the necessary support to mitigate the risk of blisters forming. As for other preventative measures, there's things like strategic taping, there's antiperspirant you can get for feet if you're excessively sweating, and there are also the options of going to a podiatrist and getting that expert opinion to help you if you're getting constant blisters. I'd highly recommend going to see a podiatrist who really knows feet. So they're sort of your main prevention strategies. I personally think as long as you get your boots right and you get your socks right, you shouldn't have too many troubles. And I find that because I wear boots, I'm not a big shoe wearer. I wear shoes around town and running and for day walks, but for those longer hikes I wear boots, and I find just wearing them regularly once a month or every 2 months really keeps them in good condition and prevents any blisters occurring. Say you've tried a few prevention strategies, you're out on the track, and all of a sudden, oh no, I've got a hotspot. Well, what is a hotspot, you say? A hotspot is that first sign that you can feel a blister forming. You've just got that little hotspot inside your shoe, you can feel something going on, and you don't like the feeling of it at all. Now, as a guide, when I was hiking as a guide on Tasmania's overland track, I would always tell my guests, the moment you feel a hot spot, stop. The very moment you feel it, you got to stop, you got to treat it on the spot as soon as possible. That is the key to Hotspot. It is prompt and effective action. Recognizing that early sign of friction on the foot and having the right tools at your disposal, such as lubricants and protective patches, can help prevent a hotspot from developing into a full-blown blister. Now, I am guilty of ignoring hotspots and leaving them too long, even leaving them 10 minutes too long, and all of a sudden you've got a full-blown blister. That is how quick it happened. I've had walks in the last 20 years where I've been an hour into a walk and said, I'll fix it in 5 minutes. And if I'd done it the moment I felt it, I probably could have prevented that blister, but I've left it 5 minutes too long, and I've had a horrible next 4 or 5 days as a result of not getting onto it straight away. I've also seen it many times on walks where I've got guests who have left the hotspot, haven't mentioned it, and then we're looking at things like cutting boots apart to sort of help in treatment of the blister and pain.
We may cut the back of the boot out, worst case, but we'll keep you updated.
So what can you do for those hotspots? Well, you can get little blister prevention kits with some of those Engo patches. What I tend to do now is I'm going to have a kit with those Engo patches. I carry a little bit of lubricant, a little bit of Vaseline. There's a lubricant called Body Glide, which you can use as well, but I just prefer a bit of Vaseline, something like that, in to help reduce any friction that's occurring on the foot and help stop that hot spot getting any further. It's a tough one, but the most important thing, the moment you feel a hot spot, you've got to stop and you've got to treat it as quickly as possible. But sometimes it doesn't happen. Like I said, they develop into full-blown blisters. Now, on our most recent trip, my friend Bowie, he develops some really, really bad blisters. The blisters were not pretty. Ugh. But there's a few different stages a blister will go through. So before you go treating the blister, you need to see what state it is in, what stage of the process is the blister in. So first up, you have your intact blisters. So these are the ones that have got that bubble on the skin. They're not leaking. That's a fully enclosed. It's got what's called a roof on the blister. So it's got the skin going over the top of the liquid inside the blister. Now, ideally with these, you're not going to be continuing hiking for much longer, because if you do, it's probably going to burst. With these types of blisters, you need to protect them with an island dressing. That is something like an adhesive tape that's got a patch in the middle that will not stick to the blister. You don't want to use anything that is going to stick to that roof of the blister, because what will happen is it'll stick and rip that roof straight off and then expose the blister. Now, there are ones called primer pour. There's op-site, post-op. You just want something that's going to protect it and have that island of adhesive around the outside of the blister. It's not going to stick to the blister, but it's still going to keep it protected. And when you're doing this, friction reduction is crucial. So what you can also do, if you've still got a hike, to try and prevent that developing any further, that blister, you can use a bit of a lubricant as well. You can use some of those patches to reduce friction inside the boot, do all that other preventative stuff as well to try and increase the comfort of the blister. But if you're, 4 days into a 9-day hike, something like that, I often find that they quickly go from that intact blister stage to the broken blister stage. So in this instance, what you've got is the blister has burst, the liquid is seeped out, you've still got that roof, you've still got that flap of skin over the top, and you want to try and keep that there at all costs. You want that there so to help with the healing process. And you might just have a small tear in the blister where it's leaking the fluid. And in that instance, what you've got now, you've got an exposed wound because you've got a tear in the blister, and potentially you could get bacteria and stuff getting into the blister, which could cause infection. So when you're in this situation, generally you want to try and clean the blister if you can. Some people carry a bit of saline, normal saline, squirty bottle thing that you can squirt on the blister and give it a bit of a clean, or just use a bit of antiseptic. I like betadine, so you can apply a bit of that, bit of antiseptic, and again, you're using one of those island dressings in this situation as well. And again, you can use a bit of a lubricant over the top of the dressing or on the sock, or a patch inside the boot to reduce friction and try and increase comfort as much as possible. Now, one thing I also sometimes recommend to people when you've developed a pretty bad blister pretty quickly is to pull the sole out of the boot. I know that doesn't increase comfort a great deal, but it does sort of reduce the way the foot is sitting in the boot, which may help reduce the friction, and it's certainly worth trying just for a short stint to see if it helps improve comfort. And I have found in the past for myself and for some friends that it has greatly helped. Removing that sole out of the boot all of a sudden creates this magic sort of different scenario with the foot inside the boot where it isn't rubbing and you're not getting that skin shear and that friction occurring. But if you're still not been able to make that foot comfortable and reduce that friction, you can lead to the full-blown raw exposed blister. This is where the roof, the top of the blister has completely come off, and now what you have is exposed raw skin, and this can get pretty messy. And well, how do you treat this type of blister? Well, now that the blister is fully exposed, the roof's gone, there is a different type of dressing you can use, and these are called a hydrocolloid dressing. And these dressings really excel in those blisters where the top has been ripped off and you're just left with a raw wound. With wound management, I used to do this a lot as a pharmacist. With wound management, you want to promote a moist environment to allow for healing to occur a lot quicker. If you leave it to air dry, which I still hear people recommend today, that's not the practice you want to be doing. You want a moist environment for that wound to heal correctly and quickly. And what hydrocolloid dressings do is they promote a moist healing environment, which is essential for rapid and effective healing. You still want to be keeping an eye out for signs of infection, so before you go putting the dressing on, you can put a little bit of antiseptic on there, a bit of that betadine, something like that, and just keep an eye out for any signs of infection. Things like redness or swelling or pus, where redness is expanding away from the wound, that is a sign that you probably need medical treatment. But the hydrocolloid dressings, they are fantastic. I've used them myself. We always carry a few with us on walks now, just in case. And there's quite a few brands of them out there now. We normally take the Band-Aid Advanced Healing ones. They're a good one we've used. There is the Compeed dressings. There's heaps of them. But what they do is you stick them over the red raw wound. They will also interact with the weepiness of the wound and create this moist environment that promotes healing, and they also provide a tiny bit of a cushion for the wound as well. Now, one thing with those is that especially if they're on the heel of the foot, they can sort of roll away at the edges and become stuck to the sock very easy, especially if it's a very weepy blister. So what we tend to do then, we will tape all around the edges of the hydrocolloid dressing with something like a Fix-A-Mole or strapping tape. We'll tape all the edges around so it can stay on for as long as possible. With a hydrocolloid dressing, as long as there's no infection occurring, you want to have that on there for sort of anywhere from 3 to 5 days so it can really start to heal that wound and promote a moist environment for healing. Often hard to keep them on for that long when you're hiking, but you should be able to get at least a day or two out of them when you're on the track, which is why we also carry plenty of these dressings when we're on a longer hike, just in case they're coming off. Now, it is important to note that with these hydrocolloid dressings, these advanced blistered Band-Aid dressings that they're actually everywhere now. You can buy them at the supermarket, you can buy them at pharmacies, but there is a few things to know about them. So with these hydrocolloid dressings, do not use them for blister prevention. That's not what they're for. They're there to treat those red raw blisters where the skin has come off. They're not designed for prevention. Do not try and use them on a blister that still has the roof, still has the skin intact on top of the wound. If you put this hydrocolloid dressing on top of one of them, it's very sticky. It's going to rip the top off of that blister and you're going to be in a worse situation than what you started with. So don't use them on anything other than a red raw blister where the top has come off. And also don't take them off too soon. If it's healing well, if it's looking pretty good, if it's not weeping out the sides of the dressing, you can leave it on there for a few days. But if you use them right, they're a good dressing for when things get pretty dire, things get pretty bad. So that's your treatment strategies. But hopefully you don't have to go that far. Blisters don't have to be a regular part of your hiking repertoire. If you use these tips, apply some blister prevention know-how, your feet will thank you, trust me. We're going to look at footwear in a coming video soon, and when we do, that'll be right there. In the meantime, check out this video where I go into some other stuff. But until the next one, I hope you found that helpful. Leave some comments below, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and tell me your blister story as well down below. I'd love to hear it. It's always a bit of an epic story. All right, see you in the next one. Bye-bye.